Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. We're going through the Bible and we're looking at every Old Testament book, seeing how Jesus in the pages there is foreshadowed, prefigured and prophesied. And it's really important that we do this, because if we don't really see Jesus for who he is, we're never going to understand the Old Testament or the New Testament, because he is the subject of the Bible. It's all about him. It's all leading up to him. And we're now in the first book of Kings. And there we read about King Solomon. Now, King Solomon, of course, was supposed to be the greatest king. He was certainly a great king in terms of his splendor, in terms of his wisdom, in terms of his wealth. He certainly surpassed hhis father David. Jesus spoke about the splendor of Solomon. He said that look at the lilies of the field. In the Sermon on the Mount, he said Solomon in all his splendor was not arrayed like one of these. But Jesus also said that he was greater than Solomon. In Matthew chapter 12, verse 42, Jesus said, "The queen of the south will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, and now something greater than Solomon is here." And if you look at the three major characteristics of Solomon, then you will see that Jesus far surpasses Solomon in every one of them. Well, the first one was that Solomon was supposed to be a king of peace. The reason why David was not allowed to build the temple was because David was a man of war and his hands were stained with blood, and so God would not allow him to build the temple. So Solomon was a much more peaceful king, but not completely. There were wars and there were battles that took place during Solomon's reign. But in Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7, Jesus is the true Prince of Peace. And so he's superior to Solomon in that regard. Second thing about Solomon was his wisdom. Now we know that in the end of his days, Solomon lost his wisdom. He acted foolishly, but at the beginning he was a wise king. God told him to ask for whatever he wanted, and he asked for wisdom. And God said, you could have asked for wealth, you could have asked for success and fame, but you've asked for wisdom, you've asked a good thing. And Solomon had great wisdom. But you know, Solomon's wisdom turned to foolishness, because he married so many different women from pagan peoples that his heart was led astray, and he tolerated idolatry in the land. And in so doing, he did something that was supremely foolish and sowed seeds of disaster into the people of God and into their future. So Jesus, of course, Jesus is not just wise, Jesus is wisdom. That's a very different thing. It's very different to say you're wise and to say you are wisdom. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 24, it says Jesus is the power of God and the wisdom of God. Solomon spoke about wisdom. Solomon wrote Proverbs about wisdom, but Jesus was the wisdom about whom the Proverbs were written. And of course, the other thing that Solomon was famous for was his great wealth. It was legendary in his life. He was a legend in his own lifetime to do with his great wealth and all the silver and gold and everything else that he had. But Jesus has a wealth that is far greater than that of Solomon. Solomon's wealth, it was great, but it could be counted. But the Bible talks about the unsearchable riches of Christ. So Jesus, in everything, in him being a Prince of Peace, in his wisdom, and in his wealth, surpassed Solomon. All the things that Solomon was famous for, Jesus was infinitely more advanced in as the incarnate Son of God. And so it really is true what Jesus said. It might have seemed like arrogant when he said, now someone greater than Solomon is here, but Jesus is indeed the one greater than Solomon. God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.